Welcome to Coaching with Confidence and Care podcast, inspired by common topics that arise in coach training, mentoring, and supervision. I am Dr. Luba Desamidze, the founder of Upthink Coaching. I'm an active coach trainer, mentor, and supervisor. If you are listening, you are probably looking to deepen your skills as a coach. I hope this podcast will be a helpful resource for you and contributes to your journey. In this episode, I want to address an uncommon question for this podcast. As you might have noticed, most of the questions I raise are somehow related to coaching competencies, skills, or maybe coach's inner dialogue, which is most typically discussed in supervision. But today, the topic that I want to address is different ways of structuring your practice. That is, different business models for coaches. This is a very common question from coaches, especially for newer coaches who are figuring out how to start, and sometimes even established coaches who want to rethink their business model. Since we have recently launched a new ICF Level 1 cohort at Upthink Coaching, I thought this is the perfect timing for this episode. Well, in this episode, my goal is to cover a few most popular arrangements I've seen or experienced myself as a coaching client. And I'm going to talk about B2C coaching. So when you coach individuals, not corporate clients. I acknowledge that there may be more models that I list in this episode, so I'm always eager to know about alternative ways. Please reach out and share if you have something to share. If you think about how to structure your practice, you could have some questions like, what are the different business models available to coaches? How do I decide which business model is right for me? What factors should I consider when I make my choice? How do different models work? What are the pros and cons of different arrangements? How to price services in each model? What are some possible operational challenges that may come with each model? And I actually invite you to think mid-term and long-term. Think about what you want from your coaching practice overall and which of the models will allow you to scale your coaching business in the direction that you want it to go. I know that these may not be the questions a newer coach asks themselves when they start, and I guess I did not think about them myself when I was starting out. But 7 years into this work, and I wish I had spent more time on being strategic from the early on. So I'm planning to share some observations about most popular business models, and on top of those practical questions as a supervisor, I would also like to raise some ethical considerations to be aware of when you choose a model to follow. Now let's get started. First and very straightforward is one-off coaching sessions. This is quite a simple and transparent model for newer coaches, and it's also a way to kind of get people interested in coaching or get them to try coaching with you, especially if they don't have a long-term goal or want to use coaching to resolve a single question. It can be more cost-effective for clients as well. But this may be a bit more transactional. There could be less depth because depth comes from the quality of a coaching relationship and the level of trust that you have between you and the client. And that may take time to develop. I don't mean to be categorical about this because as you deepen your ability to maintain trust and psychological safety, your sessions can reach greater depth, even if you only have one session with a client. In addition, many people are naturally open and willing to be vulnerable, even in a single session. Now, there could be less continuity in one-off sessions or maybe lack of accountability. So if you choose to focus on this type of work, you may need to think about the pre-session and post-session elements that help clients integrate their learning, especially if this session contributes to a greater change or a long-term change. I personally think that a more consistent coaching rhythm helps to develop a mind shift, new ways of thinking, being and doing, as well as accountability. So it's only for people to stay on track with their goals. But for highly driven people who know what they want and need just a one-time clarity boost, that could be a good solution. From the business perspective, their revenue may be volatile, so there's no guaranteed income, or it may be hard to predict cash flow. I can also imagine that securing the number of one-on-one sessions that you need each month can become quite energy consuming, especially if coaching is your primary revenue source. But if you run a community or have a highly engaged social media following, this may not be an issue at all. As for ethical considerations, there needs to be a lot of clarity in session agreement and in communicating the value per session. So you need to be mindful of not undercharging or undervaluing your time, preparation, or not overpromising what can be achieved within one session. Make sure to explain the difference between coaching and consulting super clearly so that your clients do not treat it like ad hoc advice sessions. I think the one-off model may also work well as a post-coaching or post-learning kind of support, or a way to engage with past clients, people who've already made some progress in coaching with you, have a connection with you, and they're self-aware. They can take occasional one-off sessions to receive support precisely when they need it most. Another model, which is very common, and I know a lot of practitioners use this model, is a package model. And it's a fixed term package. Usually there's a set number of months and a set number of sessions arranged according to your chosen structure. I know some coaches who only do, say, 3 session packages or 10 session packages or 6-month packages. I have a personal experience working with coaches on different types of contract. For example, when I was on a 3-session contract, that coach positioned herself as a coach for people who really needed a little boost, not a long-term work, and that is her true zone of genius. I personally typically start with 3 months, that is 6 sessions, and I like doing that because to me, this is the time frame that allows people to gain deeper self-awareness to support their desired outcomes, and they develop the capacity to notice their inner dialogue and respond to it constructively, which is in a way similar to coaching themselves. I like to support my clients in developing autonomy, their ability to self-reflect and build on that new learning. I also like that it is a very predictable structure for both coach and client, which fosters accountability. Change is a complex process, and having some predictability, structure, and accountability really helps one get disciplined and intentional about their inner work as well as their behavior change. Commitment reflects a client's readiness for change and increases the likelihood of success. From the business perspective, it could be more predictable and stable for a coach who can focus on doing the work. And clients get most out of it as well because their coach's mind is not preoccupied by non-stop business development. Now, some coaches charge for the number of sessions, and there are coaches who charge for the value. For example, if a client wants to hire a coach to support their business growth from one stage to another stage, and it's kind of easy for the client to calculate the cost of a change, then coach may price their services based on the value to support bridging that gap. This is not an uncommon approach, although I personally as a coaching client have never experienced it. And from the ethical perspective, I start to wonder, what if something goes wrong? In coaching, we cannot really guarantee the outcome. We try our best to get the client to their desired outcome, but life happens and everything's changing, and change is complex, and the client's pace may be different, and how can we guarantee this outcome? But if you're the coach who uses value-based pricing for their packages, reach out. I'd be super excited to talk to you and maybe record an interview for another podcast that we have on YouTube. Back to the ethical perspective, it's important to discuss all possible courses of actions in advance with your clients and include various scenarios in your coaching agreement, which I always suggest that you do in writing to make it crystal clear and also to make the commitment sealed. Clients may drop out midterm. Life happens, and according to the Code of Ethics, A coaching agreement can be terminated at any point by either party if there's no more need or value or the time isn't just right anymore. You'll also need to be clear about communication in between the sessions because your commitment to provide value does not usually mean 24/7 access in this type of package. Some coaches provide support through messages or emails, but there are also coaches who provide support like monthly community webinars or some recordings, ebooks, office hours, whatnot. You'll need to be clear about deliverables. Remember to co-create them with your client before you start regular sessions. If you choose a package model, specify the number of sessions, your scheduling and cancellation policy, refund terms, the scope, what is going to be provided, what is not going to be provided, what to expect from communication in between sessions. It may also be useful to think what happens after the package ends. Do you offer a renewal? Do you just finish work? Do you have a community? It can fully depend on your personal preferences and the broader vision you hold for your practice. There are many ways to do it, so use some of these ideas as a springboard for your own ideas. The next model is a retainer or subscription model. Here's how it works. Clients pay a recurring fee, for example, a monthly fee, or sometimes they pay 6 months upfront for ongoing access. And access is the key word here, not even the number of sessions. It could be a set number of sessions plus asynchronous support and check-ins, or it can be a flexible number of sessions to support someone as often as they need. I guess if you have a retainer that comes with unlimited sessions, extra resources and easy access, you may need to be very mindful about not creating over-dependence. Make sure that clients also have a chance to develop autonomy and not lose their power just because they have unlimited access to you. This model is quite sustainable as you won't need a lot of clients. What's important, you'll also have a chance to develop long-term relationships with clients, and it's valuable because in person-centered work, the alliance or relationship between a practitioner and their client is one of the key factors that contributes to the effectiveness of work overall. Retainers may work well for high-end clients, very busy clients, high-touch clients, executives, or business owners who want ongoing partnership, work in a fast or high-stress environment, and may need support dealing with emergent fires that do not arise on a predictable schedule, for example, by every Tuesday when you're having your sessions. A higher commitment may be required from both parties, and there needs to be a conversation about boundaries as well. If you do avoid these conversations, everyone will have to act on their assumptions, which always complicate the situations just because they may not be the same. Be very clear about what the retainer covers, what the scope is, what's out of scope, what's the exit strategy, what if your client wants to cancel, then how do you go about that? Make sure your clients don't feel that they're locked and they kind of cannot escape this retainer, even if they don't see value. It's wise to build in progress checks and course corrections to keep your finger on the pulse of your clients' learning and growth so they continue receiving real value even after some of the major barriers have already been addressed. There needs to be alignment around tasks and responsibilities so the client knows even though they have priority access to you, they need to do the work. They can't just ping you every time they need something. You are not there to wave a magic wand or manufacture breakthroughs. Now, if we move away from one-on-one coaching, coaches who really want to scale up can always do group coaching programs. And I think that's a great way to cover more people and make it more affordable for them as well. You can make more impact if you work with multiple people at once. If you're all into communities and peer learning, that may be the way for you to go because your clients will get peers through your programs who have shared the journey, who are ready to support each other, and who already have a bond. This model also comes with a lot of predictability, because there is a set schedule for weekly or bi-monthly group calls. There are fixed cohort, everything's locked, everything's very structured. Now, if you are a structured person who likes to work with groups and has stronger facilitation skills and knows how to work with group dynamics, group coaching may be a good model for you. The collective wisdom of a group can be extraordinarily rich and generative. You will need stronger facilitation skills to make that work. There are many wonderful books about group coaching and group dynamics, so you make sure you read some of those. There could be less personalized attention in groups than in one-on-one coaching, but you can go for a tiered approach as well, which means that you offer only group coaching to people who look for a cost-effective solution, and group support and one-on-one session option for people who want dedicated time to discuss their own topics in more detail and get some undivided attention. The good thing from the business point of view is that you can have one funnel for different types of clients, which may reduce your marketing and business development expenses. You'll have the same marketing budget driving people to you who want coaching around the same problem or topic, but who will choose different levels of engagement with you. There is some risk management too, because not all clients pay the same, so you can balance your income and keep it stable. On the admin scale, you'll need to do more design work, have multiple offers, and pay attention to clear language in your marketing so you communicate the difference in value between packages. There may also be additional resource demands if you are serving different levels of client engagement within the same program, as they may require different types of support. Speaking of nuances of group coaching business model, there could also be some dropouts. When people leave the cohort early or do not show up, make sure such situations and scenarios are reflected in your coaching agreement, as well as the ways to handle them. In many group coaching programs, there's a proposed high-level curriculum, and participants choose topics aligned with the major theme for that session. It doesn't mean that contents or training has to be part of the session. It's still going to be coaching, but as more facilitation skills are involved with groups, of course there's going to be more structure. If you plan to use different modalities with a cohort, then make sure you explain the differences between them to participants. For example, if you have certain parts of the program that are focused on content delivery, that is training, or maybe experience exchange in the form of mentoring. Definitely emphasize confidentiality with groups. Make sure that all the participants are on the same page with ethical obligations and they do not share other people's experiences in public, especially in a way that can make others get identified. There needs to be pricing transparency if you offer tiers. Ensure that you choose the group size that you can serve. My personal approach would be to go for smaller group size between maybe 5 and 6 people. I like to work in a relational approach and support participants in getting deeper insights beyond transactional outcomes or just problem solution kind of shortcuts or quick fixes. So I know the depth may suffer if the group is large. In groups, you need to balance the focus on each individual with time for sharing the group wisdom so that individuals do not just sit there waiting for their turn. The group needs to be engaged as well. And the whole group could learn something from the collective experience. So you need to set expectations clearly to avoid any misinterpretations or misunderstandings by participants, which may lead to dissatisfaction, refund, or other complaints. If you go for a tiered approach, make sure that you make the experience equitable and that your group-only clients do not feel they're less valued or they get less. And I personally think that for group programs, it's always nice to have a VA support, and VA stands for a virtual assistant, because VA can handle the admin so that you can bring the best of your energy to the group. Well, I think that's basically all that comes to mind right now when I talk about B2C coaching. Of course, there's a lot more directions for you to explore. There's corporate coaching, and then associate work and business partnership where you collaborate with someone and you kind of co-design a shared practice with someone. And I think that would be really too much to cover in one episode. Well, maybe next time if there's interest. I want to leave you with some questions that you may want to think about to choose your business model, especially if you are a newer coach or a coach who wants to revisit and redesign their business model. So think about the following things. What is your income goal from coaching? Don't ignore it. Make some projections. You need to have your income goal. Then how many clients do you want to serve? What is realistic in terms of your energy, time, and other commitments? What is your capacity? How many hours per week can you do without burnout? Do you prefer to establish closer relationship with individuals, or do you like to serve more people in a group and you get energized from building groups and communities? Definitely think about your client profile. Who is your ideal client? Individuals or business audience? Students, housewives, business owners, expats in a new country, people struggling with work-life balance? And think about your client preferences. Would they rather work one-on-one and have a super flexible schedule, or would they benefit from having a community and go side by side with someone? You really need to align all those things in order to have a successful business. Consider your audience, what your audience needs, what they will buy, and what form of service or services they may prefer. Your business model and your audience profile or profiles should be aligned. Sit down and prepare a coaching agreement. There is a sample agreement on the ICF website, and if you need examples of clauses for different types of agreements like sponsored agreement or three-party agreements, send me a message. I have a wonderful compiled document that can provide all that information. Be strategic. Think about the future long term. How scalable do you want your business to be? What is your vision of your business? Do you plan to grow your practice, and in what way? Do you want to build a team, or do you want to stay solo? There are no right answers to these questions. Everything depends on you, your personality, your goals, and your vision. I guess that's all for now. This was a high-level overview of what business models are possible, and I hope if you're a coach picking or thinking your business model, you found this summary helpful. If this conversation gave you something useful to think about, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it with another coach who might benefit from this. Word of mouth is still the most meaningful way this podcast grows. If you're looking for PCC training that goes deeper into the kind of coaching I talk about, the relational, psychologically informed, human side of the craft, our Level 2 program opens again in spring of 2026. All the details are on the website if you are curious, www.upthinkcoaching.com, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I always enjoy connecting with coaches who take their development seriously. I'm always available to mentor, coaching, and supervision if you'd like to work one-on-one. Next time, we'll talk about the revised ICF core coaching competencies and changes introduced in 2025. What's changed, why it matters, and how those updates will impact your practice and the way you think about competencies at a deeper level. Understanding the logic behind the changes will help you stay grounded, especially if you're working towards a credential or mentor other coaches. So that's where we are headed. I hope you'll join me next time. It's going to be an important one.